This wasn't just any garbage. This was industrial waste. And I had a pretty good idea where it had come from. Hastings Manufacturing. I tried to stay calm, but my blood was boiling. I wasn't the kind of man to start a fight, but this was too much. I hopped in my truck and drove straight to Trump's office. When I walked in, Trump was sitting behind his massive desk, looking like a corporate kingpin. "Trevor, what can I do for you today?" I found a bunch of garbage dumped on my land. Trump. Industrial waste. Your waste. What are you talking about? Why would this be of any concern of mine? I mean, if you have that much waste from your work, that's your problem. You know full well that that isn't waste from my farm. You know exactly what I'm talking about and where it came from. I'm not an idiot. That trash came from your factory. I want it cleaned up, and I want it cleaned up now. Are you accusing me of dumping on your land, Trevor? I'm asking if it's yours, and if it is, then I'm asking you to do the good neighborly thing and take responsibility and clean it up. You have got some nerve. You don't come into my office and accuse me of anything. You hear me? I'm running a legitimate business here, and I don't have time for some small-town farmers' conspiracy theories. Get lost. My name is Trevor, and I've been farming my land for as long as I can remember. It's in my blood, the sun beating down on my neck, the smell of soil after the rain, the sight of my crops standing tall in the fields. This land has been in my family for 3 generations. My grandfather plowed this earth with his own hands, and my father taught me everything I know about running the farm. It's more than just land. It's our legacy, our livelihood, and our way of life. So when I got a new neighbor that strolled into town and started throwing money around and announcing that our small town and way of life was going to change, I instantly got worried. But the day that I met this new neighbor, this man that went by Trump Hastings, well, I knew that I wasn't going to get along with his big money investors or fancy suits. And I definitely wasn't a fan of his plans to build his factory right next to my farmland. The moment that I met him, I knew that he was sleazy and just a terrible person. "Hi there, my name is Trevor. I understand that you bought the land next to my farm." "Yeah, I did. Any chance you'll save me a bunch of hassle and just sell me your land right now? I should warn you, I won't pay more than 25% of what it's worth right now." My land has been in my family for generations. Why would I sell it to you for that cheap?" "No offense, but that would be incredibly dumb of me to do." "Well, or you can wait until the land loses value because of its proximity to my factory, but that is completely up to you." I couldn't believe it. This man was either incredibly arrogant or a complete liar. I had never had an issue with the previous owner, and I was beginning to wish that they had never sold. However, as soon as he mentioned that he was building a factory next to my farm, I knew nothing good could come from having a big corporation breathing down our necks. Trump's company, Hastings Manufacturing, was supposed to bring jobs to the area, boost the local economy, all the usual promises. But I saw through that slick grin of his. The man didn't care about the town or the people in it. He saw dollar signs, nothing more. And as for the land, he had no respect for it. I tried to go in front of the town council and get them to see the dangers of what he was going to do, but they wouldn't listen to me. They just saw the jobs that Trump's company would create, and they were willing to roll the dice on him. I could tell that they were worried that he wouldn't be good for the town, but for the moment, they were willing to wait and see, and so they gave him the permits to build. The day they broke ground on the factory, I was out in the fields, watching the bulldozers flatten the land that had once been an old meadow. My chest tightened. I could already picture the pollution, the noise, the traffic. But there was nothing I could do. The town council had been swayed by Trump's promises. So, I kept my head down and focused on my work, even though every time I saw that factory going up, it felt like a knife in my side. It wasn't too bad until their construction trucks began driving across my land. It was very annoying, but I was going to let it slide until one of their trucks ran over my mailbox and then drove through some of my crops. It was then that I had to say something. "Where is Trump? This is insane." "Oh look, the redneck is complaining. What's the problem?" "The problem? Your construction crew is damaging my property. Are you going to do nothing about it?" "Oh, boo-hoo. Fine. I'll have a word with them and get them to be more careful." After that, His crews mostly kept on his side of the property line, but the damage was already done. And as far as I could tell, Trump didn't care and wasn't planning on making things right. It was incredibly aggravating, but I chose to let it go, at least for the moment. Things really started to go south, though, a few months after the factory opened. It was early morning, and I was out by the edge of my property, checking the fence line. That's when I saw it. Piles of garbage, just dumped right there in my field. Plastic containers, broken equipment, and bags full of who knows what. It looked like it had been there for days. My stomach twisted. This wasn't just any garbage. This was industrial waste, and I had a pretty good idea where it had come from. Hastings Manufacturing. I tried to stay calm, but my blood was boiling. I wasn't the kind of man to start a fight, but this was too much. I hopped in my truck and drove straight to Trump's office. When I walked in, Trump was sitting behind his massive desk, looking like a corporate kingpin. "Trevor, what can I do for you today?" "I found a bunch of garbage dumped on my land." "Trump, industrial waste. Your waste." "What are you talking about? Why would this be of any concern of mine? I mean, if you have that much waste from your work, that's your problem. You know full well that that isn't waste from my farm. You know exactly what I'm talking about and where it came from. I'm not an idiot. That trash came from your factory. I want it cleaned up, and I want it cleaned up now." "Are you accusing me of dumping on your land, Trevor?" "I'm asking if it's yours, and if it is, then I'm asking you to do the good neighborly thing and take responsibility and clean it up." "You have got some nerve. You don't come into my office and accuse me of anything. You hear me? I'm running a legitimate business here, and I don't have time for some small-town farmers' conspiracy theories. Get lost." For a second, I just stood there, stunned by how quickly his mask had dropped. But I didn't back down. "This isn't over, Trump. You might think you can push people around, but I'm going to keep an eye on you. And if I find out you're doing anything illegal, I'm coming for you." Trump didn't even respond. He just turned back to his desk, dismissing me like I was nothing. But as I walked out of his office, I made a vow to myself. I was going to find out what Trump Hastings was really up to. And when I did, I was going to bring him down. Over the next few weeks, I started keeping tabs on the factory. At first, it was just garbage I'd find. Piles of it dumped not only on my land, but on my neighbors' properties as well. Every time I found it, I'd take pictures, documenting everything. I even got a few of the other farmers to do the same. We all knew it was coming from Trump's operation, but proving it? That was the hard part. Then one night, everything changed. I was out late, checking the irrigation pumps by the river that ran along the edge of my land. As I worked, I noticed something odd, a strange smell in the air. It wasn't the usual scent of soil and water. No, this was something chemical, something foul. Curious, I followed the smell downriver toward the factory. That's when I saw it, one of Trump's trucks, parked at the riverbank. Two men were unloading barrels, big metal drums that they were rolling right into the water. I hid behind some trees, my heart pounding. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Trump wasn't just dumping garbage on our land. He was dumping chemicals into the river. Chemicals that would flow right through town, poisoning the water supply. I knew I had to do something. I snapped some photos with my phone, careful to stay hidden. But as I watched, the full weight of what was happening hit me. If Trump kept doing this, he could kill the whole town. Our water, our crops, our livestock, all of it would be contaminated. The next morning, I called the authorities. I gave them everything, the photos, the reports of the garbage, the chemicals in the river. At first, they didn't seem to take me seriously. Just another farmer with a complaint. I could tell that's what they thought. But when they saw the photos, their faces changed. This wasn't just a small-time issue anymore. This was a full-blown environmental disaster waiting to happen. It took a few weeks for them to gather enough evidence to move in on Trump. During that time, I kept quiet, even though it killed me to watch his trucks coming and going, knowing what they were doing. But finally, the day came. The authorities raided the factory. They found everything: illegal dumping sites, barrels of toxic chemicals, documents that proved Trump had been skirting environmental regulations for years. And the river? It was poisoned, just like I'd feared. The chemicals had already started to seep into the groundwater, threatening the entire town's water supply. Trump was arrested that same day. His smug grin was gone, replaced by a look of pure panic. He was charged with multiple counts of illegal dumping, environmental violations, and endangering public health. As the news spread, the town turned on him. The man who had promised jobs and prosperity had nearly killed us all. It took years for the government to clean up the mess Trump had made. They had to bring in specialists to treat the river, the soil, and even the air. The damage was so extensive that some parts of the land were declared unusable for farming for a long time. My neighbors and I banded together and sued Trump and his company for everything they were worth. It was a long, grueling legal battle, but in the end, we won. We were awarded millions in compensation for the damage he'd done to our land, our crops, and our way of life. And Trump? He lost everything. His company was shut down, his assets seized, and his reputation destroyed. His wife left him, and the last I heard, he was living in a rundown trailer on the outskirts of town, a broken man with nothing left. As for me, I'm still farming. It took a while, but the land is healing, and so is the community. The money we won helped rebuild what we'd lost. But more than that, it showed that people like Trump don't get to destroy what's ours without facing the consequences. Every time I walk by the river now, I think about that night. The night I found Trump's men dumping poison into the water. It was a turning point, not just for me, but for the whole town. We stood up for what was right, and we won. And as the crops grow taller and the river flows clean once again, I know one thing for certain. This land is worth fighting for. Always. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below saying I subscribed, and we will try our best to reply to your comment.